which wasn't irresponsible because I'm spending hundreds of pounds on Magic the Gathering. It was irresponsible because Death and Taxes was a bad deck.
Hi everyone, it's Olivia Dave here, and welcome back to the next episode of Get Your Deck Out. Wherever you see us across the internet, talking Magic the Gathering, banter, cards, and everything in between, we're back here. We've not anything particularly on news and on topic, just talking to somebody from the community, someone we've known for quite a while, having a bit of a catch up about the constructed metagame in not standard across the plane of formats that we like to play. It's Olivia, otherwise known as Dog Food for Girls on the internet. Olivia, welcome.
Hello, welcome. It's lovely to be on here. It's lovely for this opportunity. So thank you so much for inviting me. Obviously, I've been a great fan of your tournaments up in Wales, and you're doing a great thing for the community. So I'm so happy when you let me on and just wanted to have a chat about Magic.
Oh, absolutely. And same back. But like, this is actually probably the most important reason why we've got you on now is to talk about like your successes, the memes, the madness, and like how we and what helps us enjoy the game. Because like, yeah, amazing. We've had a long time linkage of playing Magic, and like the fact that like we're bringing this back together, that actually there's a scene for us to play on now is incredible, because it goes back a little. Like, and my memory of our first meeting was in an Exeter Pioneer RCQ, which would probably have to now be 4 years ago now. I'm not sure if you remember it.
By any chance?
Yes, our good friend Phil was running these, and I think I remember you as a converted Yu-Gi-Oh player, like starting to dabble in Magic and being an absolute menace with Mondo Blue Spirits.
Oh, that deck has a very special place in my heart. Mostly because I played such an unbelievable amount of it when starting. Obviously, the constructed format where I started really getting into Modern was Pioneer. So that must have been one of the first few ones that I went to where we met. I remember playing such an extreme amount of spirits on Explorer, it was called. Now it's called Pioneer on Magic Arena.
So yeah, that was Pioneer, and like the Union County Games RCQs were like for us, like the one lifeline we had. Cardiff, Exeter brought it all together. What that Pioneer time, was that your start into Magic, or had you always been sort of like dabbling in two games? Where did this sort of like serious grinder in you start coming out?
Well, I started playing Magic the Gathering in general around Innistrad. It was around the time I got into Yu-Gi-Oh! And one of the local game stores that's in Plymouth was also running pre-releases at the time, which I would attend. My main game for years of my life was Yu-Gi-Oh!, which devolved into something I don't really enjoy, but that's a whole other story.
It's a different podcast for a different theme.
That's a different podcast. Let's get your 40 deck out. Let's get your extra deck out even.
Get your extra deck out, yeah.
Get your extra deck out.
That's the spin-off. Don't tell anyone. We got that YouTube registered. I've never played a game of Yu-Gi-Oh in my life. I've been told that if I start, I'll regret it. So
it's like playing Oops or Spells and like Storm in every single matchup. It's not the most fun experience. And when I started it was a little bit more mid-rangey, a little bit more back and forth, which is what I really enjoy in Magic, is that sort of gameplay. The game devolved into something I don't really enjoy playing that much. So I took a general break from playing card games in general for a couple of years. Came back to Magic around, I believe it was on the day of my 21st birthday or my 20th birthday. I got some money and I was like, what is the most responsible way to spend this money? Let's buy an entire Modern Death and Taxes deck. which wasn't irresponsible because I'm spending hundreds of pounds on Magic the Gathering. It was irresponsible because Death and Taxes was a bad deck that I had to spend a lot of money on. But that was my first foray into competitive. I never really went through the cycle of I'm going to play casually. I jumped straight into Modern was my first format, knowing I want to play as best as I can, even if I am playing Death and Taxes.
I got
Um,
you. I got you.
uh, and yeah, started playing locally. There's a really good local scene in Plymouth, which is the town I'm from, that we sort of cultivated, so that helped a lot to get me into Modern. Um,
Yeah.
but for me, Magic was always it had the bit more of a mid-rangey back and forth that I was kind of missing from Yu-Gi-Oh after playing it for so long. And B, it was always a thing that I wanted to compete and be the best that I possibly be at straight away. Um, so um, yeah, that was my sort of return into Magic. It's been a very on and off thing for years. I have very vivid memories of random standard formats that I played for maybe a month or two before quitting again. Like the whole Kaladesh, Ixalan era. I would trade most earthly possessions in order to play that mono blue Ixalan tempo deck for one more game and have it be good ever again.
That's the thing. They were really classic times for sort of well standard Magic, and we could be on the path back there. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of moving and shaking. We're seeing a new set about to hit and drop where a focus is coming off like the broken one drop, and hoping they're gonna take us back to a bit of tempo. But that that really like lays into the sort of where you've been having your successes and where like people have seen your name up in lights across the internet spaces is always being up there or thereabouts on local modern tournaments, but specifically your recent foray into the Axiom Pauper event where you were so close, but a hell of a run.
Thank you, thank you. I've been enjoying Pauper quite a bit. Um, I truly think it's one of the best ways to play Magic the Gathering. Like I said before, we're trying our best to foster a sort of more competitive community in the Exeter, Plymouth area, and that involves teaching a lot of Magic the Gathering. So I've had the experience of teaching and lending people decks and sort of trying to convert them almost from here's your shiny commander game. You should play some real Magic the Gathering. And that was always with modern or standard that would do that with. But after just getting really into the gameplay loop of modern of Pauper even, and just sort of the fundamental Magic the Gathering experience almost of you get to cast your cool spells, but you are still fundamentally winning with combat and attacking and blocking. Uh, if I have to teach anyone Pauper, if I have to teach anybody Magic, if I have to get anybody into competitive play, I just point them towards Pauper. I go, you can buy a deck for £30. You don't even have to proxy anything. So most of my Pauper practice coming up to the Pauper Axion Invitational event was actually sort of teaching people Pauper, trying to get people into Pauper, and less like more competitive grinding that I usually practice with. But I think
So I guess you were like having like a bit of a needed to take a little bit of a look at your own plays and almost like a little bit of an over analyzing of it to show others this is a reason why you do this or this is a reason why you do that, and that take that back to basics is probably put that it's almost like it put that 1,000 hours into you, right? When you were sort of having to spend, you're putting your play, but you're also deconstructing it for someone else, right? Which then sort of then means that it's got a lot longer time to sit in. But I do love like you say that because we've noticed that trend locally with us as well about I guess it's like there's two forms of commander players, isn't there? I've been playing for years, and all I want to do is come now because I'm just washed. Right, I think that's probably the best way to say it. Or I'm always I'm too invested in my deck. Like I actually once did. I've got it still saved in my drafts. I once did a TikTok where like I interviewed a bunch of Commander players who like were going, yeah, don't play standard, it's too expensive. And then I do like the whole, oh yeah, so like talk me through your Commander deck thing. And like they talk me through this Commander deck that actually has 4 figures in it, and you can see their face like become like the GTA meme as like they're talking about the fact that they just told me £200 is too expensive, but they're actually holding £800 in their hands. But so there's those guys. They can pop off, do their thing, but there is also like the more modern people who have like come through the I'm gonna call it the after COVID loop of the obvious way to
Mm,
start is buy a pre-con and play with your friends, and you end up in the game store, you end up playing online and go, yeah, this doesn't do it for me. I want to battle. I want to I
yes.
want to try and be the best. I want to try and win prizes. Like I'm not cool with coming for 2 hours and eventually agreeing. Do you mind if I cast my wrath? It's like but there's people who don't necessarily know where to go, and it's taken, and like credit to everyone of you. And we got Francis with us doing that up in Cardiff, basically reigniting people back into the competitive game.
I think it takes I think it takes giving a commander player 2 or 3 games and telling them, "Just try to win. Do anything. I don't care what you do to me in this game. Just try to win." And some of them will be like, I enjoy the cushiony experience of my commander game." But the ones that you can see that sort of spark light up in their eyes, um, those are the ones that you kind
Yeah,
of have to foster and will grow into competitive players. And I think bringing it back to Pauper, they could do
yeah,
their thing, and that thing is winning the game.
yeah.
But just bringing it back to Pauper, yeah, I feel like Pauper was just being in the Pauper scene and being surrounded by all the Pauper players, which I didn't know a lot of. I tend to know most of the standard and modern sort of grinders, but the
Mhm.
Pauper players were their own sort of scene, and it was so lovely. They were all lovely to talk to. Everyone is so encouraging and nice and inviting to play the game. And I really do hope there can be a bigger Pauper scene that can kick off. Obviously, it's not directly supported by Wizards, but I truly think after formats like Standard, it is the best way to get people into playing
Oh,
Magic more competitively, just because it's so fundamental.
absolutely, and it's like the reasoning for us leaning in, and for everyone on the visual pod, there'll be an advert right now for Commons Clash Cymru. We're running on August the 9th coming up, and you can come and play for Troll Trader credit. You can play for promo cards, and it is Pauper. It's a pack per win though as well. So like anyone who comes and plays, so like if you come and play 5 rounds and you get 2 wins, you're gonna walk away with 2 packs. Like you're not, there's no feel bad in reality. So we really want like to foster that, because you're right. Like you got Teasdale and Reese who run the Casting Commons podcast, and loads of other northern sort of people like Dan, or the Pauper Dan as they know him, and we got Mark
Mm.
Pinder. They're all sort of like building this really great thing, and it's funny. It's almost like Birmingham's our cutoff, right? So they won't come south of Birmingham, and we won't go north of Birmingham. But if you put us in Birmingham, we'll all collide like some kind of um, and that's I think the kind of sums the UK up a bit, really, doesn't it? Is that we'll kind of go north, we'll kind of go to London, but like once you stretch us beyond there, we may as well have gone to Italy. Like that's
Yeah,
pretty much the sort of
that's
the
true.
travel experience we have. Yeah, I'll just
The
jump on an
the
Exeter
the
flight.
train is probably more expensive than just getting a plane to Italy.
It genuinely is, and I actually saw in one of the Bristol Discord groups that, because in Bristol they've just recently run a full league where their average attendance for 9 weeks was 22 a night, like, which is
Really?
incredible for like a random Thursday. And this is brilliant. Like, and I'll have to, like, again for the visual viewers bring it up, but in Bristol they're having a massive redevelopment of the inner town, and there used to be a Debenhams, and this Debenhams now derelict because Debenhams is no more. So it got taken over by a skate park, and they've called it Shreddenhams, and that just warms my heart that it still feels like the early 2000s retail shopping center, but it is a skate park with buckets of seats, and they all go and they play Pauper. And you got Deck, I got there's so many of them involved. Like, they're like a really great group. And yeah, another cultivating thing that comes from Pauper that I'm really excited to see a growth on.
That's
Hey,
that's
I wouldn't
incredible,
be
yeah.
like I wouldn't be surprised about what happens next, because we've seen Pioneer just fade into the darkness, right?
Mm.
It's like the third child that no one wants to talk to at the moment in in this sort of formats. Like,
I like
exist.
Pioneer.
I miss Greasefang with my actual heart, right? I am such a
I miss
stan.
Spirits.
I want it back, but I think it's almost like, but I want it back and it to, like, have a new set of clothes, or like a new, or like a really, like, big makeover, because we've just left it out in the cold for so long. And I think we the RCQ grind, I'll say in inverted commas, was much more fun when it was like change of format each time. Like, this, when it was standard Pioneer Modern, that would be sweet right now, I think, for keeping it fresh and keeping it entertaining.
I would I would really enjoy them to go back to the triple format sort of cycle. Um, I assume Wizards has reasons they chose to cut Pioneer and push Standard more heavily. It does it does very much favor more enfranchised players like us that would like a different format every single season. But I could also see I could see the argument for buy a standard deck and you can play it for 2 formats in a row, have a break, play it for a format in a row, really get that value out of your cards as being something they want to push.
Yeah.
But it was such a good cycle for me specifically. Pioneer was always the format that I knew the least the least about, and I would find myself consuming a lot more Pioneer content, whether it be podcast, YouTube videos, during the season. It was almost like a format that people only played during the Pioneers RCQ season primarily, but that would
Mhm.
also be it would almost feel like the community was brought together for this one specific season. Everyone will start practicing, new decks will be brewed, someone will find out that Sorin is the best card in the format, then would get banned, and then would get put away to sleep while you think about it in the back of your head. It was just nice to have a sort of format that brought all of the grinders along, that wasn't just playing modern and then playing standard and playing modern sort of on the side. It was a nice change of pace that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and that's what I think. So I've probably, there's probably a clip of me even saying this, but my theory is, for them telling us quite far out that they're now going to, because effectively we get standard from August the 2nd all the way through till March 2026. And now that we've seen Shocklands are printed, my theory is, they they've lost a pipeline to creating you and me, right? Like, so, like, I'm created by post COVID, to stopping wanting to drop my boomer money into Hearthstone and just buying cardboard instead. Your competitive mindset and wanting to win and bad financial advice has got you in. But for 90% of other people, they need a pipeline. They need the standard weekly where they've borrowed a deck for 6 weeks. Then they finally bought mono red. Then they finally splash green and start to get dual color lands. And I think they
Mm.
feel they've done enough with standard to this point, and then I think they realize, like, the fall off point. So you look at you look like back to Bloomburrow. We've got like modern playable cards in Bloomburrow with things like Slick Shot Stow Off and even Storm Chasers talent gets seen play. You then go, you got the Overlord, you got Oculus, you got Ketramos. I feel like they feel like they had a solid block here where like, yes, if you've been entrenched in standard for this year, you probably got a quarter of a modern deck now. I think they think there's another year where like if they now put the full rotation of Shocklands through standard, that by about this time next year, it'll be really safe to bring in Pioneer and go, hey, standard players, remember all those cards we banned and you couldn't sell them because they were nobody wanted them. You now have a Pioneer deck because you just got Shocklands from your standard rotation, which will eventually lay off into us having a modern thing again. I will be happily. Well, I won't be happily proved wrong. I hope I'm right because that means that up in the mothership they actually know what they're doing, and that means we're all rosy back at the farm.
Because some of the top Pioneer decks are very, very close to the best standard decks at the moment.
Yeah.
Like Kaito Demir, Mono Red, any form of the Cutter Prowess decks, Rakdos Mice, just like the general Simulacrum Synthesizer, Leyline X, Artifact decks. Those are all just standard decks.
We'll tell you, we would see Hammer Time. We would see Boros Hammer Time if people were doing Pioneer right now.
I wish. I wish.
There is so much fun and synergy, but you're absolutely right about the standard deck thing, and I a lot of people, there was the only thing with the bands and like the only little bit of feedback we saw across the channels about the bands is like, oh my god, why didn't they touch Pioneer? I do genuinely feel like every card that was banned is currently in a relevant Pioneer deck, and I think they've gone, let's take them out as standard, let's let you play with them in Pioneer. And they're just leaving that kind of concept that, you know, we kind of broke your standard dreams. I don't know if you've seen it today, but they've announced the standard showdown promo is actually Monstrous Rage. Like,
quite a bit out of date, yes.
they've even said in like the article, we do appreciate this is a little bit badly timed, but these decisions were locked in 6 months ago, so enjoy. You can play it in modern. And it was like, fair enough.
The previous, I believe the previous, or one of the standard showdown promos were also cards like Feldon. It was the mono red deck but from like a year ago.
Yes.
So they're not the quickest on it. And I do think good promos is such an incredible incentive to play Magic the Gathering.
Oh, you're 100% right. And have you seen so the other thing that's happened today, so when you get it right, it makes everyone happy because the next store champs, not although this store champs is pretty good because if you play the Final Fantasy one, you get a City of Brass for winning.
Which
you
is
get
going for £200 currently, I believe.
Absolutely. Death Shadow, then Preordained. But the next one is going to be Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Slick Shot Show Off, and Bitter Triumph, which are all
Oh, Jesus.
decent
That's
cards.
incredible.
So they've got that one right. But I do think that's one thing we'll always have to have in mind is like if they are 9 months out making decisions, there is going to be the odd monstrous rage moment.
Or thinking Feldon is anything but playable, and it's not just a 2-mana 2/2 of haste.
Yes. Like don't be too hasty in your decisions. Like see what's good in decks and just print them will be the way to go. But decks, we've talked about Spirits. Your favorite Spirits was there. At Pauper, I was about to call it Pauper again. At Axion Pauper, you were playing Mono Blue Fairies.
It was indeed.
Pet deck of my own friend Francis locally, and I've played myself a couple of times. What was your thoughts about bringing that? Was it favorite deck, best deck, known deck, had a meta read, all of the above? What were you looking
Uh,
at?
I tend to navigate, or I tend to default to blue tempo-y flashy decks in basically every single format I play. Um, so that was immediately what kind of drew me towards the deck. So I had a play style that I sort of naturally enjoy across every single format, which helped a lot because I knew I wasn't going to be able to do a lot of designated testing
Hmm.
uh, for for the tournament. Like I said, I did a couple of weekly Pauper events at my local game store that were mostly teaching new players how to play with a little bit of more serious testing.
Hmm.
But I knew I just wanted a deck that I can pick up, play, naturally understand. Um, that is why I favored very heavily towards fairies. And
Yeah.
B, that deck is an absolute work of art, and it feels
Yes.
so incredibly good and rewarding to play.
Yes. I second it. So it's kind of like fun, and like you can be a little bit like chess. If you can be 2 or 3 turns ahead, like you can stay in control. Um, without necessarily having to not do combat damage, which is also lovely. I I do I do think it's like almost like the work of art player plays mono blue fairies, and Skewered as well with it. It always seems to do well even into the metas where it has bad matchups. It's almost like they seem to still seems to be really good and really playable. And like looking back through that whole event, you saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think you only like you came back up against walls and the mirror a couple of times, but you
Yes,
outside of that,
you.
it was fully diverse field that you beat.
Yes, yeah. Couple of the decks like wars and some of the initiative variants I faced uh were decks I have never seen before and just kind of had to default to just general heuristics and understanding who's the beatdown, the default sort of heuristics of playing Magic and how matchups like this play out in other formats.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that was once again easier because I felt so comfortable playing a flashy blue deck like this. And there were a couple of games. There's Fairies when the deck is ahead, feels like it's a prison deck. It's the most suffocating deck I've ever played. Whereas it's when you're ahead with Fairies, it's probably the hardest control deck across any format because you're not resolving another spell and you're going to die in 3 turns. When Fairies is behind, uh, it is a struggle, but it's a struggle that I enjoy playing. I feel like I enjoy sort of that I'm gonna play a very tempo-y game and,
It's a tempo game, but it's also a thoughtful game. You actually need to sometimes resist the temptation of trying to end the game, because you need to just keep those careful lines going so that you always end the game. Like um, fairies fairies doesn't have that well, it does have mutagenic growth depending on your build, but it doesn't have that out of pocket like anthem to finally win. You just need to not lose, and eventually you win as well. But
yeah,
sometimes you need to just literally be holding up mana all day, every day, until you've starved them of resources.
and you have to the fine balance of tempo decks like this is knowing when to go all in, knowing when to, like you said, hold up that mana for interaction, but knowing when you have no other opportunity, you have to end the game, knowing what fights you choose in order to fight over what's important. Um, and I felt that a lot in Pauper of because the games are so scrappy, um, almost. It feels like scrappy Magic in the best way possible, where
Yeah.
after you can have a fight over some card advantage engine or some creature with an ETB effect, and you can spend a couple of turns going back and forth on things like, card advantage and winning the game. And eventually one player will end up with a 2/2 with vigilance. And that 2/2 with vigilance is what actually won the game. It's what ended up mattering. You're having these grand fights with some of the best cards ever printed in Magic. And your outcomes are, I have a 3/3 and you have a 2/2, so I win the game now. It felt wonderful, and I really enjoyed getting into it. I've been keeping up with Pauper since. And yeah, like we said, I'm really, really looking forward to explore more of it locally. Maybe go to that Bristol league that you were talking about.
The big thing is about making sure that we've got events across the divide, and obviously our friends at Action are always going to be putting on like the biggest events and the brightest events, but they're always going to have to look to try and feed the systems, which we have. They went out of the way to put Pauper on, but obviously logistically it meant it fought straight up against Modern, and if they could find a way to not fight another format, I think you'll find everyone will play the format, which is the sort
Yes.
of the strange thing. Like there's a group of standard people now in the Southwest who've completely sat out the last 3 months because they were like, modern's cool and all, but I've just got into standard and I haven't got £1,000. So like they were in the meantime building a pauper deck on the side, whereas there's modern legacy diehards who, because there's no land destruction in standard, don't want to play it ever again, but they've got a pauper deck. It's like, so I think that's the thing. And yeah, whilst you were talking about like the fighting, I've just actually scrolled for an old tweet of mine where I could see that there's 5 spells on the stack in a game I was playing with Fairies, so we were fighting over draw 2 cards and keeping a 1/1 Voldar and Epicure alive. and I, and that was essentially where I lost the game because I only had 2 blue counters to their 3 red counters. So yeah, very very fun for that. But modern's your jam too. You also love being the blue mage when it comes to decks. I see there. Obviously, we've got one as this video goes out. A video of you playing Belcher will just be on the channel. So and also we know you are known for your Murktide gaming. Why blue though? What is blue always the color, or is it just because of the vibes these decks give you?
I links back to when I started playing competitively. Like we talked before, my first deck of choice was Death and Taxes in Modern. Um, I played that deck for a month or so at local events. Didn't go to any sort of regional size events at the time. And I distinctly remember playing a lot of games where I felt like I was just casting the cards in my hand.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's always, that's basically every single game of Magic the Gathering, but it felt like I'm going to do my game plan, and sometimes it's going to line up really well into you, and I'm going to win the game. But sometimes you're going to do your thing, and my interaction is not going to line up. The cards I'm just playing every single turn aren't lining up against you. I feel like I don't have a lot of agency, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah, I got
Uh,
you.
and then on a silver platter with a ray of sunshine from inside of this local game store, someone gave me a Murktide deck to borrow. And I vividly remember casting my first turn 1 preordain and it just hitting me of, oh, I'm not just casting the cards in my hand. I get so much more decision making. I lost terribly.
It was like that was the moment where it's like
Oh
at
yeah,
this
I gave
moment.
that deck back and I started, itching at my hands, itching at my forearms, being like, I need to play more of this. But I vividly remember.
That's fine. I know that drug when it comes to when it comes to when you like do curse like cast like your first Murktide, or like you dash that first turn to Vagavan, like they're the moments to get you. Like
Or you realize you can, you can bottom 2 off of a preordain. You don't always have to choose a card.
I know.
And don't get me wrong, I lost a very, very hard on that first couple of weeks of playing Murktide. But it felt like every single game I played was lost due to my own actions, um, which I found really rewarding. And ever since, I've just naturally gravitated to decks like Murktide. I think one of the exceptions being Belcher, which is still a deck that gives me the same sort of feeling almost being a tempo deck where you're going to throw out all of your resources at your opponent and try to win, put pressure on them rather through combat. You're pressuring them with your Lotus Blooms coming off of suspend, your
Yeah,
ability to win the game at a certain turn, but you're still fundamentally trading card advantage for tempo.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, ever since I've just naturally gravitated towards playing blue decks. I absolutely adore them. I think there were 2 tournaments ever that I did not register a blue deck. Uh, and they were when I played Through the Breach at Firestorm Games that one time.
That one that
Uh,
that that one time, like every time where we see you hit the top 8.
there was one time I top eighted at Firestorm Games with Eldrazi Through the Breach that did not run blue. Um, and then I went, I'm gonna go back to playing blue decks. I cannot do this anymore.
Look, we all have sort of like identities, I think, and I think what sometimes people who like take the competitive side of things seriously are scared to say is actually they're scared is that I've got a deck, I got a type of deck I play, a type of deck I'm good at, and actually I'm generally not the brewer either. I'm just gonna listen to what like really smart people say and take their advice and play it really well. And Scott, who we have on the podcast, says this is about me all the time. And Scott, I will say it to camera for you. He often says to me, when you're not dicking about with content and you play a deck you're good at, you're a pretty good Magic player. And that is sometimes the reality of like being in the competitive space is getting a deck you're gonna like, you're good at, and playing it really well is actually the way that you can get enjoyment. For some people, they want to brew, right? For some people, they want to find a way to make Pyromancer's goggles work now that it's legal and standard, right? So, like, if that's your joy and enjoy it. But if you've got a lane and you enjoy it, find it, stick to it, be good at it, and it'll also be the same kind of like pleasure for you at the end of it.
My biggest advice um to people that enjoy that aspect of brewing is you can get most, at least for myself, enjoyment that you get from brewing from just the flex slots in an already configured deck. Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
I've never, as long as I've been playing competitive card games, I've never done anything close to brewing, but I still think I get a lot of the enjoyment of treating it like a challenge of I have X amount of flex slots in my deck. This is where my creativity and my sort of brewing, the need for brewing can shine. Um, in that you still get that creativity of I'm going to do something different. You still have the canvas of an already existing deck. You can
Yeah.
get a lot of the feeling for brewing just by tuning your deck to the metagame, trying to make predictions, trying to play the game of this is the best deck, so people are going to be registering this deck to beat it. So do I tune my sideboard to beat the best deck, or do I tune my sideboard to beat the deck that I think the decks people are I think are going to bring to beat the best deck? Um,
Yeah,
I,
Francis has just Francis with Mono Blue Fairies kind of actually said this to me earlier today about the card that's just been revealed from Edge of Eternity's Ilovar Gale Blade. So this is the 1/1 blue. It's got flash, it's got flying, and sack this creature, draw a card. Um, I he went, oh my god, fairies, blah, blah, blah. And I to be honest, I had to just go. I don't understand what you're replacing in fairies. I thought fairies had every slot figured out, and like the point he made back to me was, well, yeah, I wouldn't just blindly switch this card in because it's an upgrade, but like it's a card that fits a slot that in a particular metagame, this might be a better card. So like the Brine Barrow Cutthroat spot is sort of like the Elder slot. Like you may pop two of these in rather than necessarily the Coven card. And that made me realize like actually then when you are someone who knows a deck, you know when you know your flex slots, you kind of that's the brewing you can do is like identifying the cards for the slots. Like I think another great example at the moment is like Oculus in standard. Like
mm,
what are the other three drops that join Oculus? Like there's Terza Lightbringer, which does is 3/3 with haste, but then there's a 3/4 that discards two cards and has longer late game value. And it's like so sometimes just knowing that flex slot value is also just as good a brewing, just a good a brewing an invention.
and I
But
feel it's also a great feeling to be proficient enough with a deck. Um, I feel like it happens with a lot of decks. When you pick up a deck, you are just, copy whatever challenger list um, that recently performed well. Trust that your opponent, or trust that the general community has figured out a good list. Um, but then eventually, as you play the deck enough, you start to develop your own thoughts about it. And there is a very distinct, almost time period where you are learning the deck, and time period where you have learned the deck enough that you just start having these thoughts automatically. And I think it's a great feeling to learn a deck enough to be able to naturally just come to these conclusions um, as you practice it more.
yeah, no, 100%, 100%. I'm with you on that, and it's funny, isn't it, when like you actually yes, you're not sitting there for hours like running through two drops in a two drop slot and building around them like but you still can put this kind of invention into like your pet decks as well. If you had to take one with you in a suitcase, who's coming with you though? Is the modern Murktide deck coming, or is the Mono Blue Fairies deck coming, or is there a wild card that we haven't talked about?
It's a wild card. It is one we
Oh,
have
go
mentioned.
on, go
I
on.
think I think if modern Murktide is hanging off a cliff and a line of fairies is also hanging off a cliff, they can fly. I don't know why they're hanging off a cliff. Uh, and mono blue Ixalan era standard Tempest Gin Tempo is also hanging. I think I'm reaching my hand out to that one instead.
See, I think just you and your ability to understand perfect magic memes is has just come to life there because like that goes on to like the other things we'd have to talk about because like yeah, and magic's fun to play. It's also fun to be around when like you give it the right kind of like humor and you know you're Olivia, we know you're Olivia, but like a lot of people who will have tuned into this will have known you as dog food for girls on Twitter. Um, uh, you have fun with that account. So much fun. Like
Thank you.
I have so many highlights that I can pin. My favorite I think was some of my favorites like there's some of the text message tweets that you do like where like the things like the bro I miss rhinos if I got my hands on 2023 Murktide one more time me and Herbie speak out the function like that's incredible humor and banter for the niche that we are, Magic players. But like, how do you do it? How do you achieve such memeness?
I think 90% of all of my Twitter posts have stemmed from not being able to sleep at 2 a.m. and just rambling in my notes app. The better ones that I think are funny will make it to the feed. But I think most of them are from a half delirious state of not being able to fall asleep and thinking about Magic the Gathering, um, as you do when you cannot sleep. You think about you know you think about
Yeah,
trading card games. I'm sure
that's the
you
one.
know. So I think it stems from A, just being surrounded by a lot of memes and a lot of friends that speak in a similar way to me, and B, just thinking about Magic a lot late at night and just picking up my phone when you're not able to sleep and just writing 100 of the unfunniest text messages you've ever seen, and maybe like four of them were postable to Twitter, and people seem to like
That,
them. So I appreciate that a lot.
that's it though, right? And they always when the comedians always will say like the people don't see the jokes that people don't ever hear the jokes you don't tell because they weren't funny, and you not everyone's got the ability for every tweet to be a banger, but if you write 100 tweets, four of them are bangers, so just post those four bangers. And and just importantly, I wanted to just check out, there was the really massive one where you said, I wish I could use this swamp to cast something, the humble black mana pip. Is that your dog, and are they okay in this heat?
That is not my dog, unfortunately. That is a
Oh
random
no.
image I saw on Twitter that had nothing to do with Magic the Gathering, and my brain went, his ass looks like the swamp symbol. I think
And
a
the
lot of
best
them.
follow up was that the follow up of my mana pool after casting Dark Ritual, someone just repeating it 3 times, was just awesome. And this is and I love this side of internet culture where like it's jokes, it's memes, no one's getting hurt, and it just be leaning into why like playing together, having the community, being involved with your friends, and like we talk about this a lot. Like half the time we're traveling just to be somewhere with our mates. Like I'm gonna go play a team trios on Sunday in Gloucester with Francis and Idris, my mates, just to be with my mates and play Magic. Like
Nice.
that's what you do. And like I'm gonna be going to an RCQ in Bath 2 weeks Saturday on a deck that I need more reps than I have, just to spend some time with the people who've put a lot of time back into everything we've been doing down in the southwest, and yeah, and supporting. I suppose I'm donating to the prize pool, but we'll see. Maybe I have come up with the odd surprise result from time to time when I take it seriously, as Scott would say. So let's stay tuned.
Deck you don't have enough reps with and no thoughts about winning is a recipe for doing really, really well. I tend
Oh,
to find.
important. Yeah, importantly, that's a prowess deck I'm going to be playing. I'll be playing Jeskai prowess in modern, so it's at least you just have a game plan, which is hit their face. So and I also get to cast Consign to Memory, which is not a bad thing in modern either as well. So
Feel like a lot of people in modern are casting cosine to memory.
yes, very glad that I had some from and kept them, and have just like seen the price just go, what? Buying back into those would have been like buying back into Fatal Pushes when Pioneer first came back round. It would have been like, I'm
Oh
paying how
god.
much for an uncommon? Unbelievable. Oh well, but
Well, I'm still due to pick up my stock ups. That's a card I missed out on that I'm not happy
oh
with. I tend to just siphon up the blue common playables whenever they come out, but stock up was just one I completely missed out on.
yeah, stock ups are a big one. We've been very lucky, like locally, because should we just say the 8 week sale window for Magic product. If your set isn't a banger, stuff isn't leaving the shelf. So our local events have been instead of 1 pack, they've been 2 packs of Ether Drift for like the last like
Mm.
4 or 5 weeks. So like we've all just been playing the Ketramo stock up lottery. Like it's just everyone just I've never seen people rip sift and go quick, because I don't think anyone even looks. If it's not a Verge, it's not a Ketramose, it's not a stock up. I think everyone that has just discarded it to the bulk box. It's just it's one of those anomalies stock up, isn't it? Which but there is a card in Edge of Eternities which we won't mention here. I think it might be a early spoiler, which we won't, but which looks
I
like it's going to
see.
be quite a playable look at your top few cards of your deck card. But
This.
with Magic, do you want any more out of it than what you've got now? Like, is your plan world domination? Is your plan to boot up a Twitch stream one day and suddenly become like the next Pokimane or Tim the Tapman, whichever one's your favorite?
uh,
Like,
let's split the difference and say aspiring Spike.
that's so like in an alternative universe of worlds, that might be on the cards, might be something that we look to do in the future. But for now, content, or is there something in the pipeline you could reveal to us today?
I just want to play the best Magic that I can and see where it leads me. Um,
Yeah.
I definitely want to. I want to qualify for the regional championship. I had an insanely long run of nearly getting there, and not quite making it. So that's probably my biggest motivation. And then the European Unity League as well.
Yeah.
I'm really that has reinvigorated my drive to compete. That's one of the coolest things I have seen in a trading card game community ever. It's absolutely insane. Um, I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for it because that has single-handedly reignited my flame of wanting to compete. I could gush about it for hours. How cool of an incentive that is.
Yeah, shout out to Yari and the team as well for this, because obviously you segued this so well for me to say that yes, on October the 11th, the UK Invitational for the top 40 will be in Gloucester at Full Fire Gaming, where we'll be bringing everyone to play um, whatever the event, the showcase series is going to be. So we've decided this. And again, by the time we
Mm.
put this on, I might cut myself in going, Dave, it's edited, the format's modern, or the format's whatever. So we're gonna be matching the format, because it's gonna be 3 weeks out from the Spotlight series. So and people are going to be playing for heavy play goodies. They're going to be playing for singles. They're going to be playing for playmats, and most importantly, the big fat ass trophy that says UK champion, which is, I think, the thing which everyone really, really wants to hold up and have on their league. So yeah, and
It's a great
we'll be
thing to strive for.
we will. One tidy result, I'd like to think we'd see you there. You are just there on the edge of the top 40, and so that's all
Fingers
we need is
crossed.
yes. So in the upcoming months, there is basically anybody in the UK who wants to register results, be this your locals, be this local RCQs, or I know the action results will be monitored on there. If you're listening and you do a TO, unityleague.gg, go and take a look at it. Season 2, next year's season, there's always plans, and there's already plans for, I say a revamp, but what I mean is like a much more streamlined, always grinding, always gaining points value to link into everything that you do to do in Magic. So stay tuned for that as well. But yeah, it's a good time to be a player. It's a good time to be involved. And just thank you for coming and talking to us. Like, before we wrap it up, last things you want to plug? Any socials you want to talk about, or any big call outs you want to give? Do you want to tell Aspiring Spike, get on the phone? He needs you on the stream to make it better.
You should follow me on Twitter. It's at dogfoodforgirls. I tweet badly sometimes, like we discussed.
it's entertainment that's worth having. I'd even say put the bell on, because it's it definitely leans in. Olivia, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for everybody
Absolutely, no worries.
thank you everybody for listening. Next week, Scott's going to be back with me, and it'll be time to stop edging and go to the eternities, where the new card's going to be with us. It's going to be the start of the season of New Standard. So come join us. Come look at the decks that we plan to play, the decks we think will make quick impact, the decks that might be the decks that get you through your standard RCQ. Olivia, thank you for being with us. That was a fantastic chat. Everybody, it's going to soon be time to get your standard deck out. This is usually the bit for Scott, but like, I haven't got anything to say other than I just miss him. I miss him so much.